She leaned back in her chair as though victory was already hers. The smug curve of her lips looked rehearsed, sharpened for this very stage. "The prenup is ironclad," she declared, her voice slicing through the heavy air of the courtroom. The judge jotted down a note. Her attorney tugged at his tie with an air of confidence. I stayed silent. Instead, I slid a page forward, tapped a single section with my finger and leaned back. That was when I saw it, the sudden drain of color from her lawyer's face. His mouth opened soundlessly before he clutched her wrist and hissed words he thought no one else could hear. "The house, the accounts, what have you done?" Her composure cracked just for an instant. I remembered when her smile wasn't a weapon. When we first crossed paths at a fundraiser, she seemed to glow, drawing every eye in the room. Polished. Untouchable. Somehow she chose me. At that time I was still grinding, building my company brick by brick. She called me a dreamer, said she believed in my vision. Said we were partners. And I believed her. For years I carried the weight while she basked in the glow. Designer handbags, endless vacations for her mental health, late nights out with friends I never met. I convinced myself it was balance, that this was simply how love worked. Until the cracks began to show. The excuses started small. Business dinners, late nights, vague explanations. Her phone always flipped face down when I walked in. A strange perfume clung to the passenger seat of her car. I didn't confront her, not then. I watched. I listened. I waited. The final blow came one night through the bathroom door. I was in bed, pretending to sleep, when her laughter carried over the sound of running water. Her voice dropped into a conspiratorial whisper. "Once it's over, the house is mine. He'll never see it coming. He's too soft." I didn't sleep that night. By morning I wasn't a husband anymore. I had become something colder, sharper. She thought the prenup was her shield. She had pushed for it before the wedding, dressing it up as protection for both of us. In truth, it was her escape hatch, tilted entirely in her favor. But she miscalculated. I had slipped in my own safeguard months before we ever said I do. When the lawyers were exchanging drafts, I quietly inserted a single paragraph. Dense legal jargon, the kind most people skim past. It redefined marital assets. Anything she tried to hide, transfer, or claim through deception would automatically revert to me. Buried so deeply, it wouldn't be noticed until the moment it mattered. And now that moment had arrived. She strutted into court in a designer dress, certain she'd leave richer. I let her bask in the illusion. Every lie, every dollar siphoned away into places she thought were invisible, had led her straight into this trap. When her lawyer read the clause aloud, I saw his throat tighten. His gaze flicked from the paper to her, realization hitting like a blow. The judge leaned forward, curious. Her attorney stammered, fumbling for an escape, but the wording was airtight. My wording. Her smirk faltered, the first visible fracture. "Fix it," she hissed, desperation bleeding through her voice. But there was nothing left to fix. I didn't need to speak. I didn't need theatrics. My silence was the sharpest blade in the room. Each passing second twisted it deeper. She had hidden accounts in her sister's name, shuffled property titles like a magician's trick. The clause dragged it all back into daylight. Not just into my possession, but into the official record. Her lawyer's whispered panic hadn't been for her. It was for himself. The house, the accounts, what did you do? Only then did she realize she had delivered everything straight into my hands. The ruling was swift. The prenup she thought would bleed me dry instead stripped her bare. The house reverted to me. The accounts poured back. Even the assets she thought invisible were now tied to fraud. She left the courtroom pale, trembling. No victory. No smirk. Only silence. I watched her go. I didn't feel triumph. Not rage. Just a quiet, final calm. She had treated betrayal like a game. She forgot that I knew how to play. People sometimes ask if I regret it. I don't. She wanted a war. I gave her silence, strategy, and a single signature on a page she never cared to read. She thought she was clever, invincible, untouchable. But in the end she handed me the greatest lesson. Love blinds you, but betrayal sharpens your vision. And once clarity comes, revenge writes itself, in ink that never fades.